The Way of the Force, a Jedi Tao Te Ching, a reinterpretation in plain English by Lao Tzu. The Tao Te Ching is an ancient Chinese text written sometime in the 4th century BC, or possibly earlier, by a mysterious old man of legend called Lao Tzu. Although it only contains some 5,000 Chinese characters, split into 81 short chapters, it has long been considered a treasure trove of practical wisdom. In particular, it deals with how the wise conduct themselves in work, home life, leadership, and conflict, life in all of its facets. It has been translated and interpreted in thousands of different ways over the years. So why is this version needed? The Tao can be a difficult concept for the uninitiated to grasp. In appropriating the concept of the Force from the mythology of the fictional Star Wars universe and making it synonymous with the Tao, the text is immediately more accessible to many who might otherwise find it impenetrable. Associating the Force with the Tao is not a new idea. Through the work of Joseph Campbell, George Lucas incorporated many ancient concepts into his creation of the Star Wars universe. For many, the similarities between the Force and Lao Tzu's Tao are clear. The truth, explicitly stated in the very first chapter of the work, is that both the Force and the Tao are just names for a real underlying truth we find hard to comprehend. This book attempts to illuminate that truth. The force that can be spoken is not the eternal force. The force is just a name. The nameless force is the essence of the universe. Names are just labels on the tongues of people. Discard desire, and you will know the force. Embrace desire, and you will know suffering. These two are different sides of the same coin, identical but different. The universe is paradoxical, paradox on paradox. The gateway to resolve the paradox can be found. We know beauty as beauty, but from beauty we come to know ugliness. We know light as light, but from light we come to know the dark. Existence and annihilation produce each other. The difficult and easy define each other. The long and short delimit each other. The high and low depend on each other. Voice and music harmonize each other. Future and past follow each other. So the Jedi conduct themselves without struggle and communicate the teaching with few words. Everything is born from the Force, yet it imposes no authority. It gives life without possession. It benefits, but asks no thanks. It works, but claims no credit. Because the Force claims no credit, it never lacks merit. To protect people from ambition, don't honour the worthy. To protect the people from envy, don't value scarce things. To keep people from temptation, don't flaunt what is desirable. In leadership, the Jedi empty the mind and are clear. Without ambition, they are effective. Keeping themselves free of desire and aspiration, the Jedi act spontaneously and effortlessly. In action without struggle, all things are in order. The Force is fathomless and cannot be drained. It is the source of all things. It will blunt our sharpness. It will loosen our complexes. It can dim the glare and merge with the dust. Pervasive but subtle, the Force seems hardly there. We cannot know where the Force comes from. It has no source. The universe is impartial. It can trample people like grass underfoot. The Jedi are impartial and remain unattached. The Force operates across the universe. It is like a bellows, empty but never exhausted. The more it moves, the more flows through it. Talk is cheap. Better to let go and sit quietly. The spirit of the valley is immortal. It is called the subtle feminine. The gateway of the subtle feminine is the source of the universe. Barely seen, it is easily overlooked, yet it never fails. The universe endures. By not preoccupying itself with life, it is long-lived. So the Jedi place themselves last and come first. Seeing the self as other than themselves, the self persists. It is amazing what can be achieved when there is no concern for whom the credit is owed. The Force is like water, nourishing life effortlessly. Water settles low without contention. Water follows the path of the Force. Make your home wherever you lay your head. During meditation, go deep. In relationships, be kind. In speech, be honest. In leadership, be fair. In daily life, be competent. In any action, consider the circumstances. In not contending, the Force never errs. Rather than overfilling the cup, better to stop in time. Sharpen a sword to a point, and the edge won't last. Gold and diamonds may fill your house, but no one can retain them forever. Boasting of wealth and virtue brings trouble on oneself. moving on when the job is done, is the way of the Force and the way of the Jedi. Appreciating the unity of mind, body, emotions, and spiritual being, you can embrace the Force forever. Concentrating the breath, you can become as supple as a child. In clearing your perception of delusion, you can become free of error. In loving the people and leading them unconditionally, you can live without lust for appreciation. When disaster strikes or good fortune fails, you can have the strength to be vulnerable. In comprehending the universe, you can accept your ignorance. The Force gives vitality and nurtures. The Force breathes life without possessing. The Force benefits, but asks no thanks. The Force supports, but imposes no authority. Such are the subtle virtues of the Force. "30 spokes has the wheel, and yet the hub is empty. Without the void, where would the axle fit? Clay is used to manufacture a pot. It's the space inside the pot that makes it useful. Doors and windows create emptiness in a room, making it pleasant. Matter marks the limits of the useful space. Use what is there by recognizing what is not." The 5 colours blind us. The 5 notes deafen us. The 5 flavours jade us. Grasping and chasing disturb the mind. Wanting scarce things obstructs the Force. So the Jedi meet the needs of the people, not their excessive desires. Discarding desire, the people receive what they need. Favour and disgrace are distractions. Excessive esteem and fear emerge from selfishness. What is meant by favour and disgrace are distractions. When in favour, we fear its loss. When in disgrace, we fear the consequences. That is what is meant by favour and disgrace are distractions. What is meant by excessive esteem and fear emerge from selfishness? We hold excessive esteem when we are self-obsessed. The reason we fear excessively is because we are selfish. When we are selfless, what is there to fear? When the whole of the universe becomes your true self, it will become your heaven. Therefore, when you identify with the universe, as you identify with your body, you will find peace. What cannot be seen is known as indistinguishable. What cannot be heard is known as indistinct. What cannot be touched is known as intangible. These 3 cannot be comprehended with the senses. so we conflate them and consider them the same. The Force has no bright surface, but its depths are not dark. Unseen, it can't be named. To our senses, it remains forever insubstantial. The Force is the shape of the shapeless, the form of the formless, the image of the imageless. Approach the Force, and you can't see its face. Pursue it, and you can't see its back. Apply yourself to the everlasting Force in order to become present. Recognizing the source of everything is the essence of sensing the Force. Jedi are those skillful in the ways of the Force. They are subtly ingenious and profoundly intuitive, but often they look like anyone else. To comprehend them, the people resort to metaphor. Jedi are careful, as if crossing a rushing river. Jedi are considerate, like a person respecting their neighbours. Jedi are reserved, like a guest. Jedi are yielding, like ice thawing. Jedi are unassuming, like an uncarved block. Jedi are open and broad, like a valley. And Jedi are a fine mixture, like muddy water. Who can be like muddy water, yet gradually clear? Who can be still, yet burst into life? A Jedi, at one with the Force. Because Jedi do not desire fulfillment, they are never unfulfilled. The Jedi approach emptiness. They dwell in stillness. After life has flourished, it returns to stillness. Returning to stillness is tranquility. Tranquility is returning to just being. Returning to just being is knowing the universe. And knowing the universe is bliss. Acting without this in mind, the universe can be harmful. Acting with this in mind, the universe is supportive. Support leads to completeness. Completeness to a wider state of consciousness. A wider state of consciousness leads to the Force. And the Force allows comprehension of the eternal. To the end of your days, there is nothing to be feared. The greatest leader is the one the people simply recognize. The next greatest is one the people love and praise. A poor leader is one the people fear. The worst leader is the one the people despise. Where the leaders lack skill, the people lose confidence. Employ mindfulness and care with words. When the work is done and the task complete, the people will say, "It happened of its own accord." When the Force is ignored, benevolence and rectitude are needed. Knowledge and teaching are produced, and great hypocrisies emerge. When the family is not harmonious, piety and devotion are necessary. When the state becomes chaotic, patriotic politicians emerge. Discard the superficial sacred. Forget wisdom for wisdom's sake, and the people will be 100 times better off. Discard superficial benevolence. Forget justice for justice's sake, and people will return to their natural love for each other. Discard superficial cleverness. Forget profit, and there'll be fewer thieves. Superficial things are insufficient. Instead, embrace simplicity. Cease selfishness and temper desire. In discarding acquisition of knowledge, there should be no anxiety. There is no difference between agreement and capitulation. Nothing separates light from dark. It is absurd to try and force people to revere you spontaneously. The people are satisfied as if at a marvellous feast, or as if gazing outside on the first day of spring. The Jedi are unmoved and silent, like a baby that has not yet smiled. The people have all they want, and the Jedi have discarded their desire for anything. The people have clear plans for self-improvement, yet the Jedi may appear clueless. The Jedi may appear adrift on the ocean, with no thought or need of harbour. Everyone else has a purpose, yet the Jedi may appear purposeless. The Jedi may appear different from most people, trusting in the Force. The sole source of all energy is the Force, and the Force alone. Yet it can be so difficult to sense. The Force is the form of all things, yet it can be so difficult to feel. The Force is the cause of all occurrences, yet it can be so difficult to notice. The Force is the substance of all things. Its substance is perfectly real. Indeed, it can be tested. The Force always flows, so the Jedi can investigate the origins of everything. How do the Jedi know all origins are of the Force? Because they feel the living Force flowing through them. Flexible and thus unbroken, bent and then straightened, empty, then filled, worn away, then renewed. Few people experience clarity. Many people experience distraction. The Jedi trust the Force and become a blueprint for all people. The Jedi are hidden and yet shine. The Jedi do not judge and realize that light and dark are subjective. The Jedi do not flaunt themselves and are appreciated. The Jedi make no claims and therefore endure. The Jedi do not compete so nobody contests them. When the ancients said, flexible and thus unbroken, those were wise words. Employing those words, the Jedi endure to the end. To speak infrequently is natural. A strong wind won't last all morning. A downpour won't last all day. These phenomena emanate from the entire universe. If even the universe must rest, so must people. Therefore the Jedi align themselves to the Force. Aligned with the Force, they are one with the Force. Aligned with virtue, they are one with virtue. And aligned with the universe, they are one with the universe. The Force accepts this alignment gladly. Virtue accepts this alignment gladly. The universe accepts this alignment gladly. When this understanding is lacking, alignment fails to arise. One cannot stand on tiptoes for long. One can't walk without bending the knees and flexing the hips. Those who display themselves cannot illuminate others. Those who are so sure may fail to adapt. Those who boast will not be accepted, and those who are contentious will not endure. The Jedi call these habits of self-display, assuredness, boasting, contentiousness. They call these habits garbage. Being without value, the Jedi do not employ them. There is something formed of chaos, born before the universe. Silent and void, it needs no replenishment. It goes on for eternity without fail. It can be seen as the mother of the universe. The Jedi don't know its name, so the Jedi call it the Force. They label it as vast. Being vast implies distance. Distance implies being far off. Being far off implies returning. The Force is vast. The universe is vast. The earth is vast. And the leader is vast. Within the universe, there are 4 vast elements, of which the leader is one. The leader reflects the earth reflects the universe, and the universe reflects the Force. The Force reflects itself. Sincerity keeps frivolousness in check. Tranquility overcomes turbulence. The Jedi can travel anywhere without ignoring their responsibilities, and temptation cannot distract the Jedi. Those with great responsibility cannot be frivolous. In blind frivolity, responsibility is discarded, and in mental turbulence, the Jedi is lost. In travelling, the Jedi leaves no tracks. In speaking, the Jedi are free of miscommunication. In analysis, The Jedi do not jump to conclusions. The expert safe-maker baffles the burglar without need of bolts or locks. The expert in binding uses no knots. So the Jedi come to the aid of anyone in need. They abandon nobody. They sense the Force in all and waste nothing. This may be known as complete existence. So the Jedi aid those in need, and those in need give the Jedi purpose. To refuse aid, or to ignore those in need of aid, may seem strong, but reveals delusion. The Jedi recognize they themselves are aided by those they help. Know the masculine, but keep to the feminine. Enter the flow of the universe, and the Force will be with you always. You will return to infancy in perfectly imperfect potential. Know the light, but remain in obscurity. As a Jedi, the Force will be with you always, and your potential will be limitless. Know the glory, but remain humble. As a Jedi, the Force will be with you always. You will be filled with potential. Your potential will manifest in compassionate, effortless action without struggle. But when the work of the Jedi is done, the Jedi let it go and return back to potential. Whoever tries to control nature and attempts to manipulate it will have no permanent success. Nature is sacred and cannot be possessed. Whoever tries to own nature changes it. Whoever grasps nature will crush it. Some people lead and some follow. Some people breathe easily and some labor. Some people are strong and some are weak. And some people persevere and some give up. The Jedi discard extremes, discard extravagance, and discard excess. Leading the people with the guidance of the Force should never involve the implementation or threat of violence. Violence inflicted on the people will be returned to the leader. Where the military reside, the land is barren. In wake of a great army, bad harvests inevitably follow. The good leader ends conflict and does not retain power by force. The leader succeeds but does not boast. The leader succeeds but without arrogance. The leader succeeds but does not accept the spoils. And the leader succeeds but does not intimidate with force. The leader does not overextend the reach of the state. To do so would be in conflict with the Force. And what is in conflict with the Force will not endure. The finest weapons are double-edged. Jedi detest their use. Weapons create pain and suffering, and only delusional people honour them. The Jedi value peace and harmony. But if violent conflict is unavoidable, Jedi will use weapons of war to defend themselves with calm restraint. In bloody victory, the Jedi take no joy. To do so would be to delight in slaughter. And those who delight in slaughter will never find peace. Jedi grieve with heartfelt sorrow for slaughter by their hand. In victory, the Jedi mourn the fallen from all sides of the conflict. The thing we call the Force is just a label. It has no name. Its influence can be imperceptible, yet no person can overcome it. If the leader feels the Force, everyone follows. The universe unites, and abundance prevails. The people become cooperative and peaceful, without the need for laws and government. Names are needed when people view different things as distinct and isolated entities. This habit stops as the people realize that all things are connected. The tributaries flow into great rivers, and the great rivers flow into the ocean. In the same way, all things in the universe are connected by the Force. One who understands others is astute. One who understands the self has insight. One who conquers others is forceful. One who conquers the self is stronger. One who can be content is wealthy. One who can complete their intentions has will. One who is perfectly adapted endures. One who dies without loss continues to live. One who lives in the Force surely lives forever. The Force is like a vast ocean. It cannot be moved. All things depend on the Force for life, yet it imposes no authority. The Force creates, but claims no merit. The Force provides for the people, without claiming to rule them. Free of desire, it might seem insignificant. Yet all life aligns with the Force, and it makes no claim to rule them. It can be called great. With the Force as their guide, Jedi never seek greatness, and therefore they are truly great. When Jedi align with the Force, others follow. The presence of a true Jedi brings peace and harmony to any gathering. Music and food will entertain and satiate the people temporarily. The Force has no flavour and provides no cheap thrills, but will nourish the people completely, and it cannot be exhausted. In order to deplete something, overstretch it. In order to weaken something, overstrengthen it. In order to raise something, first build it up. In order to take from something, first endow it. This is a subtle secret that many people do not understand. The soft and flexible conquers the hard and brittle. A fish out of water will not survive. When dealing with those seeking to compete, be slow to reveal your capabilities and thus retain the advantage. The Force never struggles, but nothing is left incomplete. If leaders could emulate this, society would be naturally transformed. If during such natural transformation the people still desire, the Jedi teach simplicity. The Force is desireless. Without desire, there is harmony, and all will be satisfied. The highest virtue is never on display and fairly spread. That's why it is the highest virtue. The lowest virtue is always obvious and selfish. That's why it lacks virtue. The highest virtue is effortless, and nothing is left undone. The lowest virtue involves effort on display, and things are inevitably left undone. True benevolence acts without intention or ulterior motive. True justice acts without revenge or ulterior motive. Delusional people are more concerned with adhering to social conventions and enforcing them religiously. If the Force is ignored, the people resort to virtue. If virtue is lost, the people resort to morals. And if morals are lost, the people resort to dogma. The Jedi focus on the intrinsic, not the superficial. The fruit, not the flower. And the substance, not the veneer. The Jedi receive one and discard the other. Since the beginning, the following have been in harmony with the Force. Space, in harmony with the Force, becomes clear. Earth, in harmony with the Force, becomes firm. Mind, in harmony with the Force, becomes inspired. Oceans, in harmony with the Force, become filled. Life, in harmony with the Force, flourishes. Leaders, in harmony with the Force, protect the people. But all these derive their essence from the Force. Without the Force, space would congeal. Without the Force, the earth would dissolve. Without the Force, mind would atrophy. Without the Force, oceans would drain. Without the Force, life would perish. And without the Force, leaders will betray their people. The grand are elevated by the humble. The elevated are raised by the lowly. Society is like a pair of shoes. Neither the left nor right shoe is more vital than the other. Therefore, attain honour without recognition. The Jedi do not desire to shine like diamonds. They are inconspicuous, like pebbles on a stony beach. The Force ebbs and flows infinitely. Its power is passive. Life emerges from being. Matter emerges from non-being. When the best students learn of the Force, they practice it diligently. When average students learn of the Force, they don't know whether to believe it or not. When the weakest students learn of the Force, they burst out laughing. Without sufficient laughter, it would not be the Force. So the ancient text advises, when pertaining to the Force, the way that is bright seems dull. The way forward seems to lead back. The smooth way seems rough, and the peak of revelation seems empty. Its purity seems stained. Its power seems defective. Its motion seems inactive. Its simplicity seems complicated. Its interior seems vacant. Its secrets are slowly revealed, and its voice is silent. It has no form or shape, and the nameless Force is easily hidden. Yet it is the origin of all. The Force creates the One. The One condenses into two. The two create everything else. Everything manifests from nothing and returns to nothing. This is the harmonious cycle of the Force. People resist this harmony in the delusion that existence is good and that non-existence is bad, and authorities fuel this delusion. The Jedi, being aligned with the Force, discard the delusion and gain peace. Others appear to profit from the delusion, but lose their way. Many others have understood this teaching, and so did the Jedi. Those who live by the sword die by the sword. This is the foundation of the teaching. That which is soft and tender will always subdue what is hard and harsh. A light touch can warm the coldest heart, and that is why the Jedi act without struggle. Such a simple philosophy of action without struggle is rarely understood and rarely practiced. No wonder so few practice the ways of the Force. For what shall it profit someone if they gain fame or wealth and lose their life? Great riches lead to great losses. Great attachments lead to great suffering. And a hectic life leaves no time for contemplation. Jedi practice the art of being content with enough, without fear of disgrace. Knowing what is enough will keep you free from excessive loss. When this is realized, the door will be open to a long, peaceful life. Great work is never finished. If it is finished, how will it ever spread? People fill their lives up to the brim, and yet feel empty inside. The Jedi leave room for emptiness and experience fulfillment. Appearances can be deceptive. Perfect straightness masks crookedness. Perfect skill masks awkwardness. And perfect eloquence masks hesitation. Activity overcomes a chill. Tranquility overcomes heat. Clarity and stillness channel the force into the lives of people. When the force permeates our lives, our attention is directed to helping others. When we ignore the calling of the force, our attention is directed to acquiring things for ourselves. There is no greater delusion than to believe that more is better, and there is no greater mistake than to believe that enough is less than enough. Being content with what you have is to find eternal peace of mind. To know the universe, you must know yourself. Introspection reveals the workings of the universe. Without this insight, you may travel far and still be in the dark. Therefore, the Jedi travel inside before traveling outside. Search inside before searching outside. And in transforming their minds, they transform their universe. To pursue the academic, study your books daily. To experience the force, let go of learning, look up from the map, and comprehend the universe. Trust your true nature and lower your resistance to the ways of the force. Lower your resistance again and again until your actions are without struggle, and you will find that nothing is left incomplete. The earth spins without struggle. You can live without struggle. With unnecessary resistance comes unnecessary effort, and you will end up exhausted. The Jedi have no fixed opinions. They accept what is present, not what is past. The Jedi are kind to the kind, and the Jedi are kind to the unkind. Kindness is powerful. The Jedi are honest to the honest. The Jedi are honest to the dishonest. Honesty is powerful. The Jedi are children of the universe and live in harmony with the Force. Many people narrow their perception. The Jedi perceive what is. What is born into life must also die. 3 in 10 people cling to their lives and make no preparation for death. Another 3 in 10 people waste their lives, being fixated on death. And another 3 in 10 people pursue life in death. But 1 in 10 people fear neither life nor death. They can travel through dangerous lands, survive encounters with dangerous animals, and avoid lethal attacks. They are Jedi. With them, the flood will not drown them. The rhino is without a place to thrust its horn, and the military is without a place to admit its blade. Why is this so? Because the Jedi fear neither life nor death. All things emerge from the Force. Its energy nourishes them. Its power shapes them. Its flow animates them. So all things reflect the nature of the Force, and they owe their essence to it. Respect for the Force is not obligated, but spontaneous. All things are children of the Force. It gives birth to them, but does not possess them. It acts with them, but does not control them. It advances with them, but does not force them. And it cradles them, but expects no gratitude. This is the nature of the Force. All things have an origin in the Force. The origin could be called the mother. And when you know the mother, you know the child. And when you understand the child, you understand the mother. The Force will protect you for all your days. To all children of the Force, control your breath, discard your desires, and you will not feel abandoned for all your days. Breathe without control and pursue your desires, and you will feel abandoned for all your days. To perceive the subtle is insight. To yield is true strength. In putting our faith in the Force, we return to it. One requires no special knowledge or education to follow the path of the Force. Concern yourself only with not becoming sidetracked and straying off the path. Even though the path is broad and smooth, people are easily distracted. When people stray from the path of the Force, their work is shoddy, their reserves run low, their clothes become extravagant, and they arm themselves with showy weapons. They binge on food and drink, and hoard their money. These are the signs that people have strayed from the path. Theirs is not the path of the Force. Whatever is planted deeply is difficult to uproot. Whatever is cradled tenderly will not try and escape. This advice is ancient and has always been true. Nurture the Force in you, and its power becomes real. Nurture the Force at home, and your family will flourish. Nurture the Force in your community, and it will be harmonious. Nurture the Force in your country, and it will be at peace. Nurture the Force across the earth, and the benefits will be universal. The Jedi nurture the Force in all circumstances. How do the Jedi know the benefits will be universal? Because they have experienced them. The Jedi, with whom the Force is strong, are like newborn infants. Poisonous insects do not sting them. Fierce creatures will not attack them. The Jedi's bones are yielding, and the Jedi's muscles are relaxed, yet their grip is firm. The Jedi do not crave sex, but may arouse strong passion in others. The Jedi have strong vitality. A Jedi could sing all day and never become hoarse. Their energy flows from the Force. To live in harmony is to know the Force. To know the Force is to have insight. to pervert the Force, to turn it into a means of personal gain, is disastrous. Those that abuse the power of the Force will come to a swift end. The Jedi who know the ways of the Force do not boast. Those who boast do not know. The Jedi choose their words with care. Do not show off their skill. Play it cool. Don't get wound up. Empathize with those who have lost their way. Remain vulnerable. Then the people will not be alarmed. The Jedi never grasp the Force. The Jedi never ignore the Force. The Jedi fit in and can seem normal at face value. The Force is a treasure that anyone can find. When leading people, the Jedi are honest. They subdue those that make themselves their enemies, often without them even realizing it. Why is this the way of the Jedi? Because if restrictive laws proliferate, freedom is lost. If weapons proliferate, safety is lost. If cunning strategies proliferate, understanding is lost. And if unfair laws proliferate, law-abiding society is lost. The Jedi say, we do not force people to change. They change on their own accord. We do not tell people what to do. They set themselves right. We do not coerce people to follow our advice. Abundance arises naturally. And we have no grand ambitions. The people realize the benefits of simplicity. When leaders do not interfere, the lives of people are straightforward. When leaders do interfere, the lives of people become complicated. What causes joy today may cause sorrow tomorrow. And nobody knows tomorrow's outcome today. Order can deteriorate into chaos. What seems good to one person may seem evil to another, and people rarely understand this. Jedi are reliable but adaptable, honest but inoffensive, straightforward but not blinkered, bright but not dazzling. The Jedi exemplify moderation. In moderation, the Jedi align with the Force. When aligned with the Force, anything is possible. When anything is possible, there are no limitations. When there are no limitations, the Force can flow freely. And when the Force can flow freely, all endure, and society will be content and durable. If this is the case, society will be long-lived. Leading any group of people is like frying a delicate fish. When the people are led by the Force, darkness will not spread amongst them, and it will cause the people no harm. When neither the leaders, the darkness, or other people cause people harm, they are all in alignment with the Force. The strong should support the weak, and the strong should yield to the weak. In this way, the strong allies with the weak. The strong then receive the weak. and the weak are received by the strong. The strong and weak can unite and complement each other. And in this way, both the strong and the weak prosper, all from the submission of the strong. The Force is a sanctuary. For those of compassion and peace, it is a treasure. For those filled with selfish desire and violence, it can transform them. Words and actions inspired by the Force benefit the world, but its power can also be perverted and cause much distress. The richest people may have money, titles, celebrity, and land, but these are as nothing compared with existence at one with the Force. Why had the Jedi sought guidance from the Force? Because those that seek the Force with a true heart find it. Those guided by the Force lose their delusions. That is why the Jedi are guided by the Force. Act without struggle and work without resistance. Taste without judging the flavour, and do not overlook the little things in life. Strengthen what is weak, and answer hostility with kindness. Prepare for hard times during the good times. Tackle a problem before it grows. Break up big tasks into several smaller ones. In this way, the Jedi's work becomes easy. However, be skeptical of shortcuts and don't expect any task to be easy. The Jedi approach any task, complex or simple, with full attention and awareness. In this way, the Jedi clear all obstacles. It's easy to hold what is at rest. It's easy to plan for what is yet to begin. It's easy to shatter what is still fragile, and it's easy to scatter what is still light and small. Deal with things before they grow out of control. Manage affairs before they get out of hand. A huge oak tree grows from a tiny acorn. A tower 9 stories high rises from a pile of bricks. A journey of 1,000 miles starts with a single step. Those who interfere spoil, and those who seize lose. The Jedi do not interfere, and so do not spoil. And the Jedi do not seize, and so do not lose. Many projects fail on the verge of completion because people are less prudent at the end than at the beginning. Consistent prudence will ensure success. So the Jedi discard desire and do not hoard what is scarce. They learn what is best through experience. Helping others on the way happens naturally. The Jedi, skilled in the ways of the Force, are easy to overlook. Life is simple for them and without drama. It's difficult to lead belligerent people. Hence, belligerent leaders fail. Simple, undramatic leadership will benefit all. Incorporate this simple fact into your leadership style, and you will lead well. The reason why the 5 oceans are greater than all the ponds and lakes is because they adopt a lower position. In order to lead people, support them from beneath. To show people the way, follow them. So the Jedi show people the way, and the people do not question the route. The Jedi support the people and do not boss them about, so there is no resentment. Jedi do not compete with other people, so nobody competes with them. People realize the Force is infinite, yet they easily forget it. It is precisely because it is infinite that people can't identify it. If the Force was finite, people could more easily identify it, but then it would not be the Force. The Jedi have 3 treasures that they always return to. The first is compassion. The second is moderation. And the third is prudence. With compassion comes courage. With moderation comes generosity. And with prudence comes good leadership. Courage without compassion, generosity without moderation, and leadership without prudence are doomed. Compassion overcomes violence and brings security. The Force protects the Jedi through its gift of compassion. The greatest soldier does not fight. The greatest fighter is never vengeful. The best strategist never encounters the enemy. And the best employer is humble. This is the power of non-confrontation. This is cooperation. This is the way of the Force. The skillful debater does not attack, and only defends, does not prolong the argument, and will concede the irrelevant. This is persuasion without coercion. Engage without confrontation. Clarify those statements on which you agree, and win the argument without arguing. There's no folly greater than underestimating your opponent. To do so will undermine your position. And when 2 equal opponents encounter each other, the one that is most respectful will win. These words are easy to understand and easy to put into practice. Yet few understand them, and fewer still put them into practice. These words have an origin: the Force. People ignorant of the source of these words fail to take their advice and fail to recognize their wisdom. The Jedi might not look like much, but they understand. To realize you do not know is clarity. To believe you do know is delusion. If you recognize you are fed up with delusion, that is the first step to finding clarity. Jedi have clarity because they were fed up with delusion. This is the path to freedom from delusion. When people have no obvious cause to fear authority, authority will grow and overwhelm them. Those in authority should not interfere in people's lives, and those in authority should not constrict people's freedom. Those in authority should not oppress the people. If the people are oppressed, they will rebel. The Jedi know who they are, but do not celebrate themselves. The Jedi love each other, but refuse preferential treatment. Receiving one, they discard the other. Those of courage, but no patience, will die prematurely. Those of courage and patience endure. The Force will not judge you either way. They say nature abhors a vacuum. But does it? Even the Jedi cannot say. The Force does not compete, yet triumphs. Does not speak, yet responds. Does not summon, yet attracts. Does not coerce, yet shows the way. The Force is like an infinite net. Its mesh is wide, yet nothing slips through. If people don't fear death, threatening them with execution will have no effect. If people fear death, will executing them change anything? A human who kills another human is like an unskilled carpenter cutting wood. They will inevitably cut their own hands. Often, if people are starving, it's because the authorities overtax them. Often, if the people are unruly, it's because the authorities deprive them of freedom. Often, if people treat death lightly, it's because the authorities make their lives worse than death. The authority that does not interfere will be respected. We are supple and flexible when born, and hard and stiff when dead. Trees and grass are supple and bend in the wind, but they are dry and withered when dead. The hard and stiff are companions of death, and the supple and flexible are companions of life. An inflexible plan will fail. The rigid will snap under pressure. Hardness and stiffness are to be discouraged. Suppleness and flexibility are to be encouraged. The Force is like a bending bow. The top is pulled down, the bottom is pulled up. Extremes are diminished, and the average is augmented. The way of the Force is to reduce excess. Most people do otherwise. They take from those who lack and give it to those with excess. Who can take their own excess and give it to those who lack? The Jedi. So the Jedi expect no recognition, succeed without taking credit, and have no desire to be acknowledged. Nothing in the world is as soft or as receptive as water. Yet nothing is as effective at conquering the hard and resistant. Water overcomes that which it is not. The knowledge that the yielding overcomes the resistant, and that the soft overcomes the hard, is something that everyone knows, but few can put into practice. So the Jedi say, the one who takes responsibility for society's failure on themselves is gracious. One who bears that responsibility is mighty. The truth is frequently paradoxical. When peace is established between great enemies, unjustified reparations may be expected. These need to be addressed. The Jedi take responsibility for the debt, but exact no payment from the people. Seeing both sides of the story, the Jedi do not enforce the repayment of the debt. Only those of selfish heart wish to exact it. The Force exhibits no favoritism. The Jedi are merely conduits for it. Smaller groups are easier to manage than large ones. Let the people have more tools than they can use. Let the people know their contribution is valued, and they will not seek to move elsewhere. Even when there are attractive opportunities elsewhere, there will be no reason for the people to leave. Even though there are weapons, there is no reason to use them. The people will have no reason to gossip maliciously. Their food will be tasty. Their clothes will be comfy. Their houses will be homes, and their festivals will be jolly. The people can see what life is like elsewhere, yet the people have no cause to move. True words are rarely elaborate. Elaborate words are rarely truthful. A true Jedi should not quarrel. Those that like to quarrel are not true Jedi. And those who know are not knowledgeable. Those who are knowledgeable do not know. The Jedi do not hoard knowledge, giving to others what they know. They come to understand more. Sharing what they know with others, they understand more deeply. The Jedi serve without interfering, and the Force flows through them without resistance.